Hey everyone, how you doing? So, Fortnite's Battle Royale's loot pool. It's an ever-changing format, one that's constantly seeing updates and tweaks with almost every patch for the game. I mean, just take last season as an example. Early on in the Winterfest updates, Epic added back the Icy Grappler for a single day. It then got vaulted one patch later because guess what? Sliding completely broke with it. So yeah, needless to say, this game is almost always changing. And while we could talk about how intriguing some of the changes made over the years have been, I think I'd rather get involved with two rarities that are quite unique, those being the mythic and exotic items. Oh boy, this is gonna be a long video, isn't it? Well, I finished this script a few months ago, and it's gotten so long that I had to seriously split this into two videos, with each focusing on one rarity. So today's video is essentially going to be a history lesson on the mythic weapons, and the sheer amount of them throughout Battle Royale's life. And I don't think I need to tell you that there's a lot of them. Because of that, I won't be going into extensive detail about most of these, because let's be real, most of them don't need that much detail. We're mostly going over the dates that these were added, as well as some bonus trivia along the way. So maybe stick around for a while, we're gonna dive straight in. Well, actually, before we do that, I'm gonna plug my supporter creator code, which is SylviaYSI for those interested. If you plan on buying anything in Fortnite or for Epic's launcher, I'd recommend using anybody's code, it does not have to be mine. But in any case, if you do use mine, you get a neat little showcase at the end of my videos moving forward. Thank you to everybody who does, and let's get right into the video. So, our long list starts with one of the biggest event items in any game ever, that being the Thanos Gauntlet in Chapter 1 Season 4. Yep, all the way back in 2018. That is the first one ever made, and it was just a little bit broken too. Okay, so when you picked it up, you'd become Thanos, literally. You had 300 shield and 700 health, and your attacks were a slam, a punch, and a beam, all of which doing a considerable amount of damage. On top of this, you also regenerated all of your shield for every kill you got. Now, that's quite a lot, but in all fairness, this was also for an event that was monumentally huge for the game at the time, so it's understandable why it was so packed. But after that LTM wrapped up, it would be a whole 3 seasons before we saw our next mythic item, and oh no, it's the Infinity Blade. Okay, so this is the one that most people know about for sure. So the Infinity Blade was only obtainable in one area, that being Polar Peaks, well, Peak. It was stuck in an ice block, and when picked up, it gave the user 200 shield, 200 health, and a sword that could fling you around and deal 75 base damage to opponents with a swing, and 25 with a slam. Oh, and to make it even more disgusting, you organically regenerate health, and one time it let you break builds, as well as let you build in the first place. To give you an idea on how insane this was, this is a clip from a massive winter tournament in 2018.
Out of the storm, though.
Doesn't matter. He can.
Oh my
where
God!
He wants to be right now.
Gets
He catches
another
someone
elimination.
else.
He's on a killing spree. Oh
crushing
my
players.
word! He has picked up 8 eliminations,
Oh
10
my God.
eliminations.
So to say that the sword was a bit busted is an understatement, and it got vaulted one patch later into the season. Talk about a great addition to the game. Following that, Season 8 saw Thanos return to the fray, albeit nerfed into the ground now. There's no real surprise there. See, now you had to collect the Infinity Stones to power up, but doing so was very rewarding for this mode. Alongside this, there was also 3 mythic tools for Thanos' new minions to use, one of these being an infinite usage laser, another being a proximity projectile launcher, and the final being a jetpack. None of these could be taken off unless you became Thanos in the mode. To add on to this, there was also new mythic items that mimic some of the Avengers gear too. Going in no particular order here, there was a Captain America shield that blocked damage and could be thrown to deal damage, a Hawkeye bow that both worked as an early version of the grappler bow and an alternative to the boom bow, a set of Iron Man gloves that let you hover in the air as well as fire lasers, and Thor's hammer, which was a melee weapon that could be thrown. And to round out the mythic items for this mode, we had a treasure map that would lead to the Avengers gear. Cool. Overall, this mode was stacked, but it's understandable considering what it was made for, which is the second highest grossing movie ever made. Holy shit. The final additions to the special rarity catalog in this chapter are 2 items that I'm sure a lot of us miss, that being the Batman grapple gun and batarang that was added halfway into Season X. The grapnel was basically a glorified glider redeploy mixed with a grappler, and the batarang was a proximity mine before it was cool. It's not like these were anything special, but I do really like Gotham Tilted, so I'm biased, I love them. And that wraps up chapter 1. Keep in mind how long the video is. Oh my god, there wasn't even much to discuss here, and I feel like I've said too much. But still, we have lots more to discuss. So let's truck on through chapter 2. Starting in this chapter, you would assume that we'd talk about season 2, right? Wrong. No, there was actually a couple of mythic items added to season 1, and we'll start with the much less interesting ones, those being the lightsabers. Yeah, so Star Wars first collabed with Epic in chapter 2 season 1, and this started their almost yearly trend of bringing these things back. The first ones we got were red, blue, green, and purple. And these deal damage in a pattern, so you're always going to deal damage in the same way. You can also block with these, and that's all she wrote. I'm not gonna lie, I could not care less about the lightsabers or Star Wars in general, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you a quick mini history lesson on these specific weapons, as I don't feel like including them anywhere else in the video. Okay, so to cover every lightsaber, we started out with the 4 initial colors I mentioned before, as well as getting Obi-Wan's lightsaber and 2 extra variations of Luke's, which is odd because they were already there before. It was just Rey's lightsaber, and that one got vaulted. Huh? Even later down the line, Darth Vader got his own lightsaber, and we got a 3rd iteration of the blue and green lightsabers, these being Padawan sabers now. What? We got another red one, which was next to Darth Vader's? And there's a white one? Oh my god, I don't know how to feel about any of this, I'm just confused. In any case, these weren't the only Star Wars weapons to be added, as we also eventually got a Stormtrooper blaster that has poor accuracy, which is pretty funny, a Wookiee bow recently or something, and 2 other random blasters that I cannot be asked to name. And I think that's it. God, that is such a goofy list. Okay, no more Star Wars in this video, that's a promise I'm keeping now. If you don't like how that messes with the flow of the video or timeline, I kinda don't care, sorry. Moving on, the other actual interesting mythic to be added is shockingly the mythic goldfish statue. Okay, side tangent, this is a really interesting weapon because it was in the game for a long time, but was never actually seen in any matches, or rarely, and Epic almost never talked about it until after it was vaulted. Why is that? Well, that all has to do with how you get it, and it was a literal 1 in a million chance for fishing. Yeah, 1 in a million. But to compensate, it one-shot anybody it hit, which it could do now, but it has to not be 0 build. Yeah, it just does 200 damage. Still a really cool item, but the history it has is far more interesting than the actual weapon itself. Okay, now we're moving into the era of special rarity domination. This is the point of the game where this rarity started getting a bit flushed out, and just started getting new weapons every season that would kind of cycle. And trust me, there's a lot to talk about here. So much so that moving onward, if the weapon is just a traditional weapon that is given a higher rarity, with no name or gimmick attached to it or anything, I will not mention it. There's a lot of weapons like that, and frankly, nobody cares if there isn't some kind of gimmick or name attached to it. So with that in mind, let's continue. Okay, so let's start with Chapter 2 Season 2, and the items that only buff the damage and reload of their regular counterparts. Those would be Sky's Assault Rifle, Meowscles Piao Piao Rifle, Deadpool's Dual Hand Cannons, which can also siphon health, and Midas's Drum Gun, which if you're a former comp player like me, you remember this weapon. Literal health drainer. As for the more special mythics, there's Brutus's minigun, which increased the rate of fire and ammo used before cooldown amount, Tiantina's Kaboombo, which was the Boombo, but with an even faster arrow and rechargeable ammo, and finally, Sky's Grappler, which was an infinite usage grappler that has more range. What? Yeah, to say that the season was loaded is an understatement of the decade, and almost every season past this one has at least 1 or 2 mythic weapons. Oh no. Moving on to Chapter 2 Season 3, we have even more boss mythics. These ones actually being my favorites from any season. The normal upgrade weapons are Kit's Charged Shotgun, Ocean's Burst Assault Rifle, and Jules' Drum Gun, which started a trend of Epic bringing back the drum gun variations that weren't as strong as the OG mythic one we had before. That got old very fast. Amazing. We only have 3 special mythics into Season 2, one of which being an infinite use Chug Jug. Oh god. Another is Grappler that worked almost identically to the Batman Grapnel, and then there's the Shockwave Launcher, which is a grenade launcher that shoots shockwave grenades. I love this thing way more than I should. Finally, we have a slightly unconventional item, which is a mythic mushroom that could randomly be found in mushroom patches that gave you max health. This was removed 2 seasons later. Why was it a thing? It was so rare too. Oh god. Okay, so season 4 is where things get a lot more interesting, as there's like 10 mythics, and they are just... Okay, you ready? Because we're gonna do a lightning round. Going in no particular order, there is Groot's Bramble Shield, which protected the player inside a ball that could also roll, Silver Surfer's Board, which basically works like a mini launch pad, Thor's Mjolnir Strike, which worked kind of like a Junk Rift and also allowed you to float, Storm's Whirlwind Blast, which built up a storm around the player that dealt structure damage, Black Panther's Kinetic Armor, which reduced the damage you took for a few seconds, She-Hulk's Fists, which basically gave you nerfed Thanos Gauntlet powers, Venom's Smash and Grab, which roped the targeted player to you, dealing 60 damage in the process, Iron Man's Unibeam and Repulsor Gauntlets, with the first basically working like a dual heavy sniper and the others giving you bonus movement and a mini airstrike that targeted players, Doctor Doom's Arcane Gauntlets and Mystical Bomb, with the first one giving you bonus movement and small explosive projectiles, and the other being a chargeable bomb that you can throw, which could also set things on fire, what the fuck, and finally, Wolverine's Claws, which were just another variation of She-Hulk's Fists with a different moveset. That is so much, Jesus. Oh, but there is a bit more too. For Fortnitemares, we got Shadow Midas's Drum Gun, which is literally Jules, just cooler. And there was also a neat Witch's Broom that works the exact same way as Silver Surfer's ability. Okay, do you have all of that? Season 4 was loaded. And unfortunately, things don't end there. Season 5 is next, and this is also the introduction season for exotics, which again, we are not covering in this video, but believe me, these are also just as unique. So thankfully, this season only had 3 new mythics, with all 3 of these being collab focused. Predator's cloaking device allowed the player to go nearly invisible for 30 seconds between uses, the Amban sniper rifle was a sniper rifle that had a built-in thermal scope, and the Mandalorian's jetpack was a jetpack. Okay then, but that is nothing compared to the exotics, and these all stuck around for a long while actually. So much so that there's actually not much more to discuss in the upcoming seasons because a lot of the new items were exotics. For reference, they added 10 this season. Still not covering it in the video, but damn. Moving on to one of the weakest Fortnite seasons ever, Primal, we thankfully don't have much to talk about. We only have 4 mythics here, 3 of these being higher rarity versions of existing weapons, and 1 being a pair of boots that gave you extra movement and a glider redeploy. That's it! And thank God, because this season is ass! And as for Season 7, this is actually when I first stopped playing Fortnite, so I may get some of this wrong, sorry about that. But with the mythics here, we have Sloane's Pulse Rifle, which is basically the Stark Rifles from Season 4, as well as Zig and Choppy's Ray Gun, which seems like it's a stronger version of the other ray guns. And finally, for Chapter 2, we have a season I didn't play at all, so I'll try my best to explain things here. The only unique weapon mythic here that isn't an upgrade version of an existing weapon is Sloane's Burst Assault Rifle, which is just a stronger burst anyways. But we also do have Paper Bomb Kunais, which were basically clingers that dealt less damage and could explode in close proximity to an opponent if they sensed them, which is kind of cool. Venom and Carnage each got mythics here too, with them being a Roadhog hook. Yes, that means they were bullshit. And that wraps up Chapter 2, and oh my god, Epic was not holding back. Luckily, they kind of realized how insane things were getting, so the next 2 chapters don't have nearly as much new stuff. But in any case, we still have a lot to go over, so let's dive into Chapter 3. The first season here threw some standard mythics at us, those being the Foundation's MK7 Assault Rifle and Gunner Stinger SMG, which are both stronger versions of their base counterparts. And as for our new collab mythic, we have Spider-Man's Web Shooters, which were basically a grappler-like utility tool that was honestly really fun, and Epic knew that because they tried to replicate the mythic in other seasons, which only kind of worked. Oh, and Epic also gave us a new mythic item called the Victory Crown, which from this point forward will be in the game at all times. This basically increases the XP you earn and adds a unique emote to your inventory whenever you win. It's a neat idea, I'll give it that. Season 2 was the introduction of no builds, and alongside it came 2 new mythics. One of these being the Huntsman Saber's Thermal Rifle and Sloane's Striker Burst Rifle. That's the second burst she's gotten, and it works differently too. Why? Both of these are just upgrades, there's nothing to them. And then Season 3 came along, and suddenly things just got insane again. We got 4 new mythics, but these are all just unnamed versions of existing weapons. Okay, and then we got Dragon Ball content in the Season 2. One of these is a new Kamehameha, which was basically a massive bomb that forced you to sit still for a few moments to use it, and the other is a Nimbus Cloud, which is a reskin of the Broom and Silver Surfer's board. Yeah, I don't know where this stuff came from, it was very random, but I heard you beat your opponents. The final season of Chapter 3 did something similar, but now there's actual unique mythics too, those being the Herald's Burst Rifle and Inquisitor's Suppressed SMG, which are just stock upgrades. Oh, and also, some new weapons in the season had the gimmick of being able to level up their rarity, with the final one being Mythic. This is actually pretty neat, but I think at this point, you kinda start to notice that the Mythic Rarity has lost all meaning, which is shit. You could seriously find mythics a dime a dozen at this point. But we did get a new melee that only needed you to emote an altar to get it. Why was that the method of getting it? That's so goofy. Chapter 4 is in a similar boat, with the first season having quite a few new mythics. There's the Ageless Champion's Excalibur Rifle and Shockwave Hammer, with each being stock but better. And as for the collab mythic this season, we have Deku Smash, which was kind of like the Kamehameha. Cool. Season 2 has not much going on, just a new set of mythics called High Card's Havoc Suppressed Rifle and the Overclock's Pulse Rifle, which is stock but better. Okay, wow, so surprising. And we also got ODM gear as our seasonal collab loot. And this is kind of like Spider-Man's gear, so there's not a whole lot I have to say. Though we also got Thunder Spears, which were similar to the Paper Bomb Kunais. Oh, and speaking of Spider-Man, I know I'm late, shush, we also got a new variation of his old mythic, this time being centered around Spider-Verse. That's actually pretty cool. Season 3 brought a few new mythics in that aren't just regular variations of old weapons, one of these being a Cybertron Cannon, which fires decently high damaging projectiles that also knocks you and your opponent's back. I'm sorry, my throat is giving out, I don't know if you can tell, I'm so sorry. As well as Relic's MK Alpha Assault Rifle, which is a stronger, you see what I mean? Stronger version of stock. We also got some new utility, with the Wild Guard Relic's Cold Gauntlets being a reskin of Predator's gear. Did I even say that right? I'm so sorry. Our seasonal collab gear here is Futurama and Jujutsu Kaisen. And starting with the first, we have Bender's Shiny Metal Ray Gun, which is basically just the ray gun that's better. Though interestingly enough, it was once planned to be in more rarities, which is kind of cool. Jujutsu Kaisen has two mythics, those being the Straw Doll technique, which worked similarly to the Paper Bomb Kunai, and the Hollow Purple, which worked like Deku Smash. You know, I cannot wait for Gojo to get a new emote that says, "Nah, I'd win." Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. And finally, for the first 4 chapters, we have Season 4, and this one brought a ton of weapons, so we'll just run through all of them quickly. The new mythics are Heart's Havoc Suppressed Rifle, Diamond's Thermal DMR, Thorn's Scoped Burst SMG, and Thorn's Vampiric Blade. Alongside this, we also got our seasonal collab with Todoroki's Ice Wall, which is so stupid that I feel like I should show you the gameplay instead of explaining it. This was bullshit. And to round things out, finally we have Chapter 5, Modern Day. And this chapter has a new gimmick where you can give your guns attachments. So every mythic weapon from Season 1 was basically just a specific set of attachments as well as a stat increase. These weapons in order are Montagu's Enforced AR, Nisha's Striker AR, Peter Griffin's Hammer Pump Shotgun, Oscar's Frenzy Auto Shotgun, and Valeria's Hyper SMG. Alongside this, the season also gave these mythic medallions for each boss that you can pick up, which slowly give you shield, but also give your location away to anybody on the map. The more you have, the more shield you regenerate, but also the more precise the tracking gets. It's a risk and reward system, but it's also really neat. Oh, and also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle gear. I kind of didn't play when they were added, but they seem neat. And to give you an idea on how long it's been since I stopped working on the script, we have a whole new season for me to cover. Season 2. The new mythics here are actually different since the season is based on Greek mythology. Well, okay, there are several X weapon for Y characters better than base, but let's go ahead and not even talk about those because they're boring. No, instead, we have a return to Chapter 2 Season 4 in a way, where there's a mythic utility item. It's just a Thunderbolt that does massive damage but holds you in place and can be used 3 times, but it's still very effective. Oh, and there's also new medallions that actually have unique effects, but come on, you could play this season right now, just check it out yourself. I've talked about over 50 mythics in this video, I'm done. There was also some Avatar mythics that were like water bending and stuff, and somehow, to top it all off, they had the goal to bring back Midas's drum gun. Why? Edit to the video, by the way. As I was finishing this up, the new season dropped today. I am so frustrated, but we're gonna very quickly cover the mythics that are in the launch anyways. Okay, so there is a returning character mythic with a new weapon, that being Oscar's Frenzy Auto Shotgun. And alongside that, there's the Ringmaster's Boom Bolt, Megalodon's Nitro Fists, and the Machinist's Combat Assault Rifle, all of these being custom attachment weapons of existing weapons. And if there's anything else that I'm missing, I'm gonna throw it on screen, because this just came out and I haven't had the chance to play it, but I also really need to work on this video, so yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I think that's it. I am praying that I didn't miss any mythics. This video was a lot. Though I should admit that I'm not talking about the creative exclusives. You can go ahead and click out the video if you seriously think I'm going to sit here and cover those after this long. And with that, I think I'll be ending this video here. This took so much longer than I thought it would to put together, and there's a good chance that I didn't get everything right anyways. So if I missed anything at all, or I simply incorrectly listed an entry, let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear about your thoughts. Also, I'd like to give some quick shoutouts to Dan B, Nicholas Vankowski, and Wapfa for being extra YSI members. Alongside with my other channel members, thank you all so much, you rock. And if you're new around here, and you like what you saw, then maybe consider subscribing too. I'm dumb, so you know I'm gonna make another stupid Fortnite video soon. Now, as for me, I'm gonna try to wash away any memories I have of the Mythic Pistol, so I'll see you all in my next video. Peace.